Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here, and I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, wherever you guys are from. And welcome back to another Bitcoin technical analysis. And in this episode, I want to give a little bit of a refresher as to what's been happening in the price action of Bitcoin and what's changed since yesterday, because a little bit has changed. You know, we're now under our 200 EMA, seeing a little bit of rejection, and I'm seeing more bears come into the market. So we're going to be discussing this topic in depth. So if you guys are interested, go and stick around for the video, and do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as it does about the channel a lot. That being said, let's go ahead and dive on into this, because as I mentioned, we are now below the 200 EMA, and I am starting to see a lot more bearish sentiment from people over Discord and Twitter, and just, you know, mainly all over the internet and from what I hear around. So I do spend a lot of the time in crypto communities and looking into TA in a lot of groups as well, and I have noticed that there is just this bearish sentiment that has been coming across from people as of recently, and has actually just been growing despite the fact of some of these bullish things that I'm going to talk about in this video. So first things first, guys, we're now actually below the 382, and if you guys remember from yesterday's video, I was talking about how we were bouncing between our 236 and our 382 fib retracement. I'm now with us just ever so slightly seeing rejection from our 200 EMA and from our 382. We're really just at this zone right now where it's a little bit conflicting. Now, I would say that this is generally not a good thing to see rejection from your 200 EMA. Generally, we wanted to hold above this. It was getting used as support very well, but now the fact that we're below it again, we are going to use it as resistance. So I think step one is going to have to be to break above this, but I don't see this as too bad of a scenario. I know a lot of people are kind of bearish about this, but I still see this as a falling wedge. And you know, really, no matter how you want to draw this, even if you want to change your support lines up here a little bit, or excuse me, your resistance line, this still doesn't really change too much, because no matter how you draw this, it's going to be a falling wedge. So with this being said, something that I see that can happen over here is us easily come back down, touch our 50 EMA, which is conveniently placed right at support, and then breaking out of this. And again, I think that's a bad case scenario. If this is to just play out maybe normally, what you could see is this thing just break out, you know, pretty soon here. Or again, option B is that you come over here, you touch your 50 EMA and the support, which is the bottom of the falling wedge. Get a third touch point on your support. It'd be a very textbook classic breakout of a falling wedge. With that happening, again, I think that one might be slightly more probable, but nonetheless, both of these are scenarios. So, and I think there is the third one that a lot of people are thinking that's going to happen, is that this is just going to fail in its entirety. Now we're going to probably come back down somewhere around the $3,480 range. Now you guys can see that I have this marked over here as a potential indicator of where we might stop if we do break down towards the downside. These are usually my targets. If you guys see these white lines, they're probably my targets. I use them for things like Patreon and such, and personally just for myself, of knowing where my targets are if we do go to the up or to the downside. But that being said, again, let's go ahead and take a look at our MACD, because this is where I think that things really start turning around for this, and why I'm really not that bearish. Because again, a lot of people are bearish in this zone, but I'm really not. And I think a lot of it has to do with where your view of the bottom of Bitcoin is going to be. And I don't want that to sound too complicating, but basically, the people who have a very bearish view of the bottom of Bitcoin, the people who think that it's going to be around 1,000 or, you know, maybe low 2,000s, the people who think that this has a lot more ways to go downwards are the people who generally are looking this as a bearish scenario, and the people who think that we are close to bottom or have already bottomed are seeing this as a bullish scenario. Again, we're close to the bottom. You really can't be that bearish, but the bearish people have the opposite view, and it makes sense. But looking at this from the MACD, what I see over here is bullish divergence, lower levels of negative momentum coming in from your MACD. Looks like it's rounding off pretty well right now. Again, just looking at that, you know, not too bearish for me. Again, maybe it's not the most bullish thing I've ever seen, but again, I don't see that as bearish at all. I think it's hard to argue that this is a bearish sign for us to be looking into this market. Again, lower levels of negative momentum. Over here, you're coming down from, I think it was nearly 84 oversold on your RSI, or overbought on your RSI. I believe this was a double top from somewhere over here. Maybe not. Actually, maybe not. So when I'm looking at this on the 4 hour, again, so since we're coming back down from 84 overbought, we're now down into the range of around 48 to 50, back into this neutral zone. I think that is very possible that we see a bounce in this range, and it would not surprise me at all. Again, how many times do we see things like this come down just to bounce up? Again, you will probably see some sort of a hefty bounce in the price action of Bitcoin here. If it continues to fall, the larger the bounce is going to be. Looking at this, okay, so that was our RSI. So with both of these, I think the RSI is getting ready and due for a decent sized bounce here. If it does continue towards the downside, again, I don't see this going too deep without it bouncing in the fairly near future. Because even if your RSI does go down here, goes down close toward your 30 line, otherwise known as your oversold line, I do think that is going to trigger some sort of a bounce in the short-term future of Bitcoin. Again, somewhere in this area, I don't think it's going to break underneath 30 on the RSI before it gets a decent bounce on itself. Now, not to say that it's not going to happen. It's not, legal or financial advice in any way. But when I'm looking at this and reading the RSI and just knowing a history of what the RSI tends to do, as well as having support in this area, and your MACD is not looking too bearish either, kind of putting one thing into another, again, I just don't see this as this very bearish scenario. It's not the most bullish of scenarios, but it's just not this bearish scenario. So that's why I'm leaning more bullish than bearish, not because this is a very bullish scenario, just because it's not a very bearish scenario. Looking at this chart, you're in a falling wedge, you're holding decent levels, you're really not seeing anything too bearish. Again, on your indicators, oscillators, this is a bullish formation and continuation pattern, and that's what really is kind of swaying me more towards this bullish side than anything else. Now, if this does break down, as I mentioned in the Discord, I think this area over here was a very, viable reason as to why we stopped. What I call this is consolidation support, and I teach this in my technical analysis course of why it would stop in ranges like this. Now, for the same reason, I think that if we were to fall, we'd probably stop somewhere around this range. Previous candle body tops, previous highs are now going to act as support. So with that being said, guys, that is going to bring this video to an end. Again, I am really, to be honest, a little bit more bearish about this than I am, or bullish, excuse me, than I am bearish. Not because there's any crazy significance, one way or another, but I do just see a lack of bearish divergence on my charts and looking at this. And I think that if this does break up towards the upside, I think that we could see price action of probably around 3,760 first, maybe pushing anywhere from there all the way to around 3,767. What I would love to see happen over here, whether you think that this is a pennant or a channel or whatever, if this is a channel, I would love to see us test the top of this. If this is a pennant, again, I would love to see us test the top of this. Whether it's a pennant or a channel, I want to see us start testing some of this resistance up top. We need to start testing some of these higher levels to me, and if we cannot do that, we are going to break back down, and it's not going to be it's not going to be a good breakdown either. It's going to be probably a pretty nasty breakdown if you can't test some of these higher resistance and higher highs that we have over here on the candle chart. So that's going to wrap up this video. I want to know what you guys think about this. Where do you guys think Bitcoin's going? Are you bullish or are you bearish on this at the current time? So let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.